Second round of the Women's World Cup. We're back at Franca's Gardens on this very sunny. We did have a shower early on. Ireland against Spain. Caplice is here. 43-32.
Yeah.
What finished.
What a tight scoreline to finish. That actually reflects the game as well.
Agree. Totally agree.
You know.
Where do you want to go? Should we go Ireland first and then Spain?
You steer. What are you feeling?
Well, that's kind of my job, yeah. No, we've got to talk about Ireland because it's a quarter-final, isn't it?
Yeah.
Qualified for a quarter-final, got a bonus point, and there were some good bits in there. Your overall sort of feeling of the game?
I think I don't have the kind of elation that I felt last week.
No.
Because first it was our, return to the World Cup after a long stint. Very emotional, even performances, brilliant scores. It was real uplifting. This was like more about grit. And I'm very proud of Ireland because Spain wouldn't go away. Spain were unreal. And I know we'll get to Spain. I don't have to talk about that right now. But in the face of that, what they kept throwing at Ireland did soak it up. Now they did concede a lot of tries, but I think with the change of personnel, the trying to present some different pictures as well. I'm sure, and Scott Beeman spoke about this during the week, like he said, we have lots of different options that we need to use and try in terms of attack. And you could see it there today, like Eva Dalton kind of in the wider channels. The mall where Molly Scupper-McCabe was also in the wider channel. So they used this. They could have maybe played it safe and we'll go with what we know and we'll get some big massive score. That's not going to serve you well in a World Cup. Obviously attritionally, it was very tough. Some of those tackles from Spain. So just put Ireland under. They got a flavour of flavour of how this will continue and how this will ramp up into next week. And there was no easy game in this pool. A lot of the other, pools had, you could argue, and there's still a lot of rugby to be played, but there might have been an easy fixture at some stage, not for this Irish team, and I actually think that that's going to work in their favour.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Of course, New Zealand right next week. It was a good test. I wrote down on the notes then, it was the first thing you said when you came to sit down, was really good test for the squad. And that's what you've got to have to get to the latter end of a World Cup. And
squad is the key word there, because Scott Beeman's not known for shaking things up like this, so it's a long game here as well. It's not like the Six Nations where you get through 2 weeks and then you have a week off, and then there's kind of small blocks. This is bang, every weekend you've got to be on your recovery. You've got to be on your switch from one focus of one game to the next. All these Spanish games in the bin now, they'll obviously do a reflection, but with New Zealand in mind. Lots of homework to do this week. Blackburn have started to play now against Japan, so we'll see how that's going. But in terms of the squad and the change-ups that he made, trusting those players as well. Trusting, the likes of, Enya at 10, Siobhan McCarthy coming off, Enya Breen, Siobhan McCarthy coming off the bench, Eleanor Perry and Keena Maloney getting starts, Eleanor Perry winning player of the match, giving Grace Moore a run at 8, giving, Anna McGann a chance to say, I want to play in that New Zealand, I want that New Zealand jersey as well. So, that's a really nice thing to be able to give the squad, I trust you. So then there's not that moment where he turns around and he's like, well, now off you go and prove what you can do. There has to be trust and instilled confidence from your management, from your coaches there, and I think that this was a real showing of that.
Saying really sticky moments. Spain equalised. We've got brilliant shots right next to the Spanish coaching box, and my they were emotional all day long. Of course they were, but Spain came. We're really physical. A lot of driving ball outs, little trick plays around the front of line outs and stuff. Drew level with Ireland. Next thing, Ireland within a couple of minutes, who addressed about got another score.
Yeah, and so to talk about that element of Ireland first, where it looked as if, for all the world, at many different stages, the momentum was swinging in Spain's direction, and then Ireland would get on a turnover, so they were huge moments. They were key turnovers, to stop that Spanish attack, which, like you said, they equalised. It could have, because of the changes that Ireland had made, etc. It could have been an element of it kind of going into your shell a little bit.
Yep.
They could definitely have been that, and like, oh no, is Spain just our Achilles heel? Is this gonna disrupt us or make us implode from the inside out? And I commend the calm heads like that I've seen across the Irish squad. So even though they did lose Spain in, they didn't let the full momentum sway the Spanish way.
And I also think there's an element of it. We saw it in Scotland yesterday, didn't we? A slight element of the second album syndrome. Huge elation, great emotion last week. That's difficult to bring that back up, and you are expected. It's 5th against 13th in the world. You are expected to win, and therefore it is difficult subconsciously, consciously, to bring yourself back up. So, fair play to Ireland. They got through 7 tries in the end. Grace Moore with a couple of tries, and you say there's lots and lots of boxes ticked there.
Yeah, and you're right about that. The running of the pool stages for Ireland has been bookended by the massive opener, where we're finally back on the world stage, and then at the end, this massive World Cup encounter with the Black Ferns. Like, this couldn't be bigger. Like, this was
Fiona Hayes there.
Fiona Hayes.
Just interrupt Fiona Hayes. That's fine. Don't even come and say hello.
So what I was saying, and actually Fiona was involved that day when Ireland beat the Black Ferns the World Cup in 2014. And Irish sport is a really small community actually. Ireland's a small country in comparison with other neighbours. Sporting moments impact, and really punctuate Irish life and Irish society. And that was one of the most massive moments of Irish sport. Not just women's rugby, not just women's sport, Irish sport. And so the potential to re-deliver something like that now sits on these girls' shoulders, and I just think it couldn't be scripted better. I suppose you could argue that they wanted to get a bit more comfortable earlier on, and make changes without that worry, and just like, yes, the momentum's all our way and we're on the up, but like, I do think that the test of today will be the better pressure for next week.
Yeah, absolutely, because you run away. What about England? What did England really learn? Apart from sort of dancing on your handbag at the end. About greatest will to Samoa, and if you haven't seen the press conference with their coach, do go and look that up, because it's the most beautiful thing this World Cup has produced so far.
How many times did you cry yesterday?
Again, not as much as week 1, but there were a few tears.
There have been moments, I agree. Yeah.
When I got locked into the car park, that was a crying moment as well. Anyway, look, let's go on to Spain, because I spoke to Rocket Guy yesterday about. We're not judging Spain on scoreboards, the Fiji's on scoreboards, Samoa's on scoreboard, Japan. We're judging on development, but we've seen them in the last World Cup, the last big tournament. That Spain team is just, I was hugely impressed. I was hugely impressed last week against the Black Ferns. And again today, they backed it up, and they were brilliant.
Yeah, and like, there might be also that risk of, okay, it's the Black Ferns, we're going to throw everything at it because it's the Black Ferns. And then it was very expensive physically, and so they had to make a lot of changes off the back of that. So to have, pretty much an almost entirely new squad in terms of changes, not just clientele, but changes across positions, etc. To have thrown everything at it again. Like, my foot there, so hopefully I'll stop.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So, I agree. I'm completely, blown away by their performance today. I suppose they shouldn't be, because Spain have been able to beat Ireland, and Ireland only scraped past. Ireland only scraped past Spain the last time they played them as well. So like, that was fresh in Spain's mind, but also it's just play. They didn't have the ball enough last weekend, and even with the changes, I bet the girls who were kind of swapped out were dying to play this weekend because they got more ball. Ireland gave them more ball. Ireland need to watch their discipline. Like, there was a few definitely a few moments there, but that also comes from that intensity of the point you just made, like 5th in the world versus 13th in the world. Like, if it's a closer gap there, that intensity rises, and you can try and emulate that all you want, but you actually can't replicate it exactly. That fear that you might, lose or cough up against a closer, matched team. So Ireland may be guilty of kind of like just relaxing a small bit because they had got this couple of scores, but how Spain were able to compose themselves to come back into it, and that lovely like green zone attack they had, where they just like kept kicking, kept going really clinically, and all the backs are like sitting behind the rock. That's hard to defend because they'll swing one way or the other, and they manage that super well. And their 22 entries were much more clinical. They got more return than Ireland did statistically. So they'll be very proud and yeah.
Hugely physical, really physical team. You said the driving line out was a weapon, but also clever stuff as well. As I mentioned earlier, clever stuff around the front of the line out. The last try was down the front of the line out, and it shocked Ireland at times.
Yeah.
And also want to sort of make the point of perhaps you take the green goggles off for a second. Very hard done by the whistle by referee Roach. Ireland, you get away with what you get away with, and slowed a huge amount of ball up. And if Spain's ball was quicker today, then again, that scoreline, I suspect, would be much, much closer.
I did think that was interesting, the feedback from Pat Roach as referee saying, no, you're holding her in, like a lot, when actually often referees will just give penalties straight away, like they don't care if you're being held in or not. That's actually one of the competing elements at the ruck. If you allow yourself to get held in, you get a penalty against you. Much to my dismay, in my playing days, I was, the referees gave it straight away. So I presume the message here to the referees is that like they want the game to flow. So because I think that was the case also last week, and kind of across the tournament itself, like just let the game flow and present the ball, get out of the way. But if the ball is there to be played, you just play, and there's going to be no penalty given.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I mean, Spain go on obviously to go and play Japan next week. How do you see that going? It's going to be a really tight contest.
That'll be great.
Was their World Cup final for both really?
Yeah, it is, because they're both, they're closely matched around the rankings, and closely matched performance-wise. The smart little line outs, like will Japan have them covered now, so that it opens things up for Spain in terms of jumping. So is the picture that the Spanish line out showed today gonna give them an even a bigger platform next week? In terms of Argudo didn't have the best day out last week in terms of kicking things out in the fall and stuff. That was brilliant today, and that whole Argudo coming into 15, that was her first game at 15. To be trusted like that, I'm sure she'd love another run at that next week. So, goodness, I don't know, could I even call it? Right now, because of how I feel about Spain's performance there, I'm always, I'm always want to say that it's going to be a Spanish win. But we know what Japan are capable of as well. So let's see how it goes this afternoon now with between the Black Ferns and Japan, and how that's going to cost them. The layout of the games affects these things as well.
Yeah.
So let's see. I feel like saying that it's going to be a Spanish team. Draw like last night.
But it's certainly be an 80-minute game, because both, as we saw from Spain, scored right to the death, and Japan will go. Let's circle back to Ireland, as we should, in the quarterfinals now, joining England, Canada, and Scotland. You're Scott Beamont this week.
Goodness.
And you're against Black Ferns down at Brighton next weekend. What's your selection? Full on?
Full on? Come on. Do you know what I said a minute ago? About
I listened to every syllable.
This is.
And I was there in 2014 in the stands. Alison Miller.
Oh, Alison Miller. Oh my God, that is one of the most iconic moments in Irish sport. How could you not be teeing yourself up to recreate something like that? I suppose Black Ferns will be watching this from Ireland and see like, oh yeah, there's areas there. But maybe you could argue that this was the last week was the stronger starting side. I don't know. Plenty of girls putting their hands up there for.
Who has put their hand up today?
Well, Grace Moore, like we mentioned.
Yep.
And but I wonder, is that kind of again kind of her cementing her jersey as an impact role, because she does that so well as well, but only because of the quality of the rest of the back. So Fiona Chute's been outstanding. You know, she's been put in there for the first time ever at back row. That's been really smart from Demond as well, I think, and like with the personnel that they have there. To have a player like her that can switch in between second and back row, like she's been outstanding. I think she has to be nailed on. Let's see how Tricky recovers. So with Emma McMahon, but she didn't warm up today, so maybe they're just been saving her, and she's going to be good to go next week. Is this the question that you wanted me to get to?
Well, no.
I know talking about back row here because I just think the back row battle has been outstanding, especially in the name of the injuries that have occurred in the Six Nations, and there was seemingly a big gap there with it seemed as if when Erin King and Dorothy Wall and Aoife Wafer were missing from that Scotland match, Ireland just couldn't pull it together. Those three names are still missing, and Ireland are able to find this way to win. So I commend the back row battle for that. The centre, so Higgins and Dalton, like magic. I know they didn't get as much time kind of on the ball today, but I think that they were trying different things, like trying different formations and stuff. They might refer to what they pulled off last week, but then that means that Black Ferns have more homework to do on Ireland in terms of like, okay, what are Ireland going to bring, because those two kind of quite different games that they presented here, so it gives them more things to think about when Ireland start to attack next week.
Don't get me wrong, I completely agree with you. You've got to ask the question, it has been volleyed around. I'm not sure about either way, but there was a couple of Irish journalists said she didn't really get into the tournament at all, but I think it's just 50-50. You'd probably say the first quarter-finals, and you know you're there already. But look, we're not in that position, but Ireland are in a position of the quarter-finals. Anna Caplice, thank you so much, as ever.
Thank you.
See you, Brian.
See you, Brian. Don't go so hard on the Saturday night that you're not able for a pint on the Sunday night, because I'm not there the Saturday night, okay?